Hi, I'm Mairi, and we're here to interview Jennie. And these interviews, this is going to be a series of interviews about radical self-care, which is the practice of taking good care of ourselves and our planet. And we do this because we understand that we are not just this individual self, we're actually nested inside circles of connection, our family, our friends, our communities, our country, and ultimately our whole planet. And that what we do to one affects the other and vice versa. So we know it's a good idea in theory to practice self-care. Sometimes it can be a real challenge. And particularly at this time on our planet when things were in such a state of flux and dealing with things we've never dealt with before. So I hope that this interview and others will help us create happier, healthier lives and help us to play our part in creating a more beautiful world for all. So who am I? I'm Mairi. I'm a local life coach and wellbeing therapist based in Argyll. And you can find out more about me at changeasalwayspossible.com or on my Facebook page of the same name. So this is the first interview I'm doing, and it is with Jennie Larney. And Jennie is the manager of the Phoenix Cinema in Oban. And it might not be immediately obvious why the cinema would be important in terms of radical self-care, but I hope that by the end of this interview, Jennie and I will have convinced you that it is. Well, Jennie in particular. So Jennie is a long-standing friend of mine, and she's part of my self-care team because she's great support to me and she makes me laugh. So, Jennie, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how film came to be such an important part of your life?
Okay, well, I'm Jennie, as you know. I live here in, well, not in Oban, I live in Connell, and those around me will know where that is. I've got two boys who are men now, really, and yeah, as you said, we're long-standing friends, aren't we? In fact, we met because of our children, yeah? So, and this was a long time ago in Brighton, and we've been friends ever since. I love a lot of things. I love reading and walking and all sorts of things. Yeah? But my big passion is film. Yeah, and it took me a very long time to work in film, even though I always loved it. But I kind of thought it was something that I just did as a hobby, and I never really thought, oh, I could actually work in that industry. Yeah, and also I hate to say it, but it is a poorly paid industry, like a lot of arts. Yeah, so. It may be at the time I wasn't really able to do that, but probably the biggest reason that I love film is because of my mum, right? So my mum is mad on films. Yeah, she's 90 now, but even now, if I go down south to see her, we always go and watch a film with a great old chat about it afterwards. You know, she was a massive Kirk Douglas fan, and she was very sad when he died, even though he was very elderly. So she and I, on a Sunday afternoon, there used to be a sort of fight in our house between my dad and brother who wanted to watch the football and me and mum who wanted to watch Betty Davis doing what she does best. So sometimes we'd win out and sometimes we wouldn't. Yeah. So, and added to that, she would take me to the cinema, and my brother and sister, we'd go every week, sometimes twice a week.
Wow.
And that was our main form of entertainment. Yeah. Because she's from a generation that was in the golden age of cinema, you would call it, with the Humphrey Bogart, Ingrid Bergman, that sort of thing. So she really loved film. And even when I was a hideous and stroppy teenager,
surely not.
I was. We would still go together, but I just couldn't talk to her. And I remember sitting watching Fiddler on the Roof, and she was looking at me and smiling. And I was like, so even then, we still did that together, and it's something we've always done together. And she passed that on to me, really. Yeah,
fantastic.
So I'm very grateful. I don't know why my brother and sister, they like films, but maybe it's because I was the youngest.
Yeah.
And by the time she got to me, she had a bit more money and a bit more time. That's probably really what happened. So yeah, so that's where my love of film comes from.
Okay. So yeah, that might be a relief for some of the parents out there with teenagers who don't want to speak to them, just sit beside them in the cinema.
Yeah, it's a great thing to do, even though they probably won't want to go with you, but and you'll have to go to what they want to see. But I think it is. It's like, you know, that thing we always say about the best time to have that one of those, you know, an important conversation with your children is in the car, isn't it? Because they don't have to confront you face to face.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. Yeah. So, and Jenny, what are your favourite types of films and why?
That's a very difficult question to answer, because I don't really have a particular genre that I would say that's my genre. I love all sorts of films, really, and it's difficult, isn't it? Because and I'm thinking about something Martin Scorsese said about Marvel films, which, of course, they're just full of sort of crash, bang, wallop, but they are meticulously made, yeah, and artfully made, and I think it's I think a film, for me, it has to make me feel something. Yeah, it has to make me feel. You know, it has to make me laugh, or it has to make me feel sad, or it has to provoke stuff in me. It has to make me a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. So I couldn't really say to you that I've got a particular genre I like. I just like a really well-made film, and I don't really mind I don't really mind what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are certain films I really don't like. I don't like horror films.
Right.
But I love The Shining, which is the horror films in the mall, isn't it? Right, so do you see what I mean by that?
Yeah. So, and there is a difference between horror and suspense, which The Shining has a lot of suspense in it.
Yeah, but it is a horror film.
Yes, it is.
Mistake. Yeah,
I'm not sure I could watch it anymore.
It's hard. It's a hard watch, isn't it? Yeah. So,
yeah. Okay. So this might be an impossible question to answer, but do you actually have a favourite film?
I've been thinking about this because when people ask me that question, and it's a question I'm asked a lot, actually. Yeah, I would have to say Wings of Desire, which is a Wim Wenders film. It's a German. It's a co-production between Germany, France, and the USA. And you know Columbo, Peter Falk, he's in it. Yeah. And then Bruno Ganz is in it, a German actor. Solveig de Matin, she's a French actress. So there's all. But it's a film that's just has for me all the elements that a film should have. Yeah. So I have a lot of favourite films, but I think that's the one that I think that's the first film I watched that I became aware how powerful cinema could be, and it would be that film, yeah.
And when you say it has all the elements, what are those elements that you're looking for?
Well, so it's funny, yeah, and it has love. There is love in it, and there's humanity in it. There's suspense, a little bit of suspense in it, and there's, you know, at the core of it it's about how we interact, how we communicate as human beings. Yeah.
Okay.
Because many people would have seen the film. It's about an angel who hangs out on the rooftops of Berlin, looking down at all the mortals and thinking, I want to be mortal, and I don't want to be an angel because angels don't feel anything. Yeah? And that idea to me is really fascinating. Yeah? And it's beautifully filmed and very cleverly filmed. So it goes from black and white to colour, and there's and it's quite self-aware. So I really like that about it. And the performances are brilliant. Bruno Ganz is a very underrated actor outside of Germany. Yeah, so he often plays a villain. You know, he's that kind of guy. Yeah, but we saw him recently, you and I.
Did we?
In A Hidden Life. Do you remember watching A Hidden Life? The one about the guy who didn't want to fight in the war.
Oh yes.
Yeah, beautiful film, the Terrence Malick film. And he was the guy, the elderly general, who tried to convince him not to.
Yes, I remember.
Not to go down that path. So that's Bruno Ganz. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So So I think that film. But not everybody feels like that, do they? But for me, those are the essential elements of the film. Yeah. But for some people, they just want to see action, or they just want to be entertained, or they just want to laugh. They don't want to be made to feel uncomfortable, right? Which some films, you know, some independent films or art house films can do.
Yes. Yeah. Jenny, you've managed to say, oh, Mary, you must come and see this film at the cinema. And then I sit and squirm my way through. So, yeah. And that doesn't mean it's a bad film. It's just an uncomfortable film. Yeah, it was a difference.
No.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
And then that film I just mentioned there, Hidden Life, I love that film. I like Terrence Malick as a director. He's made some of the best films ever made, probably. I like the way he introduces sound and light and things like that.
Yeah, it was really interesting how that was used. Yeah. And just remind us of your favourite film, the name again, just in case people.
It's called The Wings of Desire.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's by, the director is Wim Wenders, but the Wim is spelled with a W because he's German. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Poor guy. He's only made a couple of really great films. He's a bit of a navel gazer, but so anyway.
At least when he does it, they're fab. Okay, now Jenny, you are the manager of the cinema. And I wondered if you could tell us some things about that job, maybe some things that people might not know about managing a cinema.
Okay, so managing a cinema is probably the best job in the whole world. And managing a community cinema is even better. Yeah.
Yes, because that's important. That's a big difference about our cinema. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, I mean, I think cinemas took a big hit, didn't they, in the 70s? People stopped going. Things were very bad, and then in came the multiplexes, which in a way they saved cinema, really. Yeah, even though they're not maybe very pleasant places to be in, they are. I think it would be true to say that. So managing a cinema or working in the cinema in general, it's a kind of multidisciplinary thing, isn't it? Because you're dealing with a product that doesn't belong to you, okay? And then you're also doing a lot of customer service, yeah? And you're also marketing. So you're doing many, many different things within, it doesn't just happen that I ring someone up and say, is it all right if I have that film? And then they go, oh yeah, that's fine. And along comes the film. There's a whole process of negotiation that goes on. But before that happens, it's deciding on what's going to go on. And in order to do that, we have to use a lot of data. So we have to get from our audience, that's where we're getting the data from, about what they like, why they like it, and will they watch it? Yeah. So part of my job is to go to a screening weekend 3 times a year. Yeah. But actually I only do 2, and one of the duty managers does the other one.
Right.
And then I go to multiple I go on courses about films, about how to get people to come in and watch films. This is called audience development. So we do a lot of that. And I also watch a lot of films that are sent to me by smaller distributors. So I just watch them on my laptop. Yeah? So that's also part of my job.
Okay.
And then, so my job is to liaise with the distributor, decide on what we're going to watch, decide on how much that's going to cost us. So for example, I might not want to pay. If you take a film on release, it costs, you give back 60% of the ticket price.
So 60% of what I pay when I buy a ticket at Oban Cinema goes to the distributor.
That's a general rule. Yeah, it's not always that.
Yeah.
But if you wait a little bit longer, then the percentage drops quite considerably, right? So that's why we don't always get everything on release. Yeah. We only get very big films on release. And it is that price, or it is expensive because it costs an enormous amount of money to make a film.
Right.
And if it doesn't do well, there are no more films like that then. So it's the industry itself, film exhibition, is very small. Yeah. So we all know each other quite well, and that works in our favour sometimes and not in others. So I take care of the cinema, all the hiring of staff, all the usual stuff, the utility contracts, all that sort of, that's all my job too. But my main job is the programming, which is deciding what we're going to watch. Yeah. And
we have a very wide and varied programme in Oban, which isn't always the case in cinemas. So what's the thinking behind that?
Well, because I as a cinema, I'm very lucky because I'm pretty autonomous in what I can do. That's not always the case for all cinema managers, and often you get a cinema manager and then you get a programmer.
Right.
So you get 2 people in one, whereas I'm doing all of it. And I don't mean that in a poor me way. I mean that's that also works in my favour in terms of being able to show quite a diverse slate. Yeah. Also for smaller films, because I'm just about to take a film. Well, it won't be shown within the next 3 months, but certainly when we reopen, I've got 2 films I'm really keen on showing. One is called Schemers. It's a Scottish film, and they always do well. And the other one's a film called Painted Bird, which I can't even start to describe. I'm just in the middle of watching it, and it is shocking. Yeah, but brilliant. Yeah. So, and in black and white.
Yeah.
So marvelous.
So it's great that you do this, Jenny, because it's bringing, different sorts of film and making them available. And where we live in the UK, it's quite remote. So there are quite a lot of things that we can't access easily. So it's nice that things are being brought to us through the cinema. Yeah.
And I can also do that because we get support from the Film Hub, which is the sort of a body of people who are directed by the BFI rather to help us with that stuff. Yeah? But even so, some people just don't bother doing it because it's a lot of work to get a film like that in. The marketing's very, a lot of marketing. I'm very lucky. I've got a fantastic guy who people will know. They'll know Marco. He does all our marketing for us. He's really good. So we all work very collaboratively between, and then we also do listen to what our customers say. So sometimes people will say, "Oh, you're going to get this film," and I maybe have chosen something else instead of that film, and then I'll have another look, and I think, "Oh well, it's all much of a muchness," so we'll show the film that person asked about.
Okay.
And that's how we try to do it. Yeah. So.
Okay, and what, because it's a community cinema, so can you just explain a little bit more about what that means and what might be different about that people might not understand?
So every penny you spend in the cinema, whether it's a ticket, not the stuff you have to give back, and obviously we pay overheads and we pay wages, all other money goes back into the cinema. There's the shareholders are the community, they're the stakeholders, aren't they? Because it's for them, it's or us, and so that's very different from a normal private cinema,
right?
Because I don't actually see how an independent private cinema can stay open. I think it'd be very difficult. I think we keep open because we've got great community support to start off, and so that's how it's different. And also because people do get a bit of a say, I suppose they get a say in what's how things are run, really, because if people come in and they don't like something, they don't come back, or if they feel they've not been greeted properly or embraced as they should be, then they don't come back, and that's not good, is it? So and we try to accommodate as many people as we can in a myriad of ways, that includes lots of different access things. So for people who are hard of hearing, or people who can't see, or people in wheelchairs, all those sorts of things, and different we've got an LGBTQ strand that we do. So there are many different things that we do. So
fantastic. And although at the moment we can't come to our wonderful cinema, I know that you've got an opinion about why you think cinema is a good way to watch film.
Well, because when you watch film in a cinema, and I noticed this myself, I'm watching this film at the moment, as I've told you, The Painted Bird, right? So I started watching it at 10 o'clock this morning. I've done a bit of shopping because we were running out of toilet rolls. And, and then I sat down and I watched a little bit more of it. But I know that my viewing experience would be completely different if I was in the cinema. Because we're not just selling you we're not just selling you a film, we're selling you an experience. Right? It is a unique experience, that and theatre, where you sit in a room in the dark and you're sharing this thing together. You may not all be feeling the same way, but you are definitely tapped into something, and it's something we do with strangers, isn't it? It's something and I just think that is, there's nothing else like it, in my opinion. So. And that's why you should watch a film in a cinema. Of course, we all watch films on our laptops. We watch Netflix. We watch this, watch that. But I find if I'm watching Netflix, I eat too much. So I'd much rather be in the cinema.
Yes, you're trapped in
Yeah, you're right.
in the room, yeah. You can't
Yeah,
go to the fridge so easily.
yeah, and
Okay,
yeah.
okay. And I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that shared experience in a moment, but and maybe this comes into what I'm about to ask you, but what do you think makes film and that cinema experience perhaps as well important in terms of self-care and radical self-care?
So I think film has a power that nothing else has really. The moving image, since its sort of inception, you know, it's you know, or even a static image actually. It moves people. It makes you laugh. So if you're feeling a bit, well, I can only go by myself, and also from talking to other people. If people are feeling a bit, you know, or not very, or they're not relaxed, or they're feeling a bit unhappy about things, and they go to the cinema and watch a film, they come out feeling completely differently. You know, depending obviously on what the film is, but you know, you can come out of a film and feel inspired, can't
Yeah.
you? Or you can, look at the amount of people who came to see Mamamia. You know, some people were very rude about Mamamia, but people, I could see people coming out the door, they were happy and singing, and
Yeah.
you know, and that there are very few things that is good for, really. You know, I mean, there's a very few things that you can have exercise and have the same experience probably, but you can't do it in a group scenario like that. Yeah, and I also think that it's important politically. It's you know, culturally, especially in Scotland, so important in Scotland because you know, film defines who we are. You know, all the great Scottish films you've ever seen, they're all a reflection, aren't they? And a window into the people of that country.
Yes.
Yeah? And that's so culturally very important. I don't know about the radical self-care. I suppose some films can be. You can watch a film that you can make. There's a film that we've both watched called Let Me Be Frank. Yeah, and about a guy who completely turned his life around. He was headed for a heart attack or God knows what else, and he went to a cafe, didn't he? Where there were a vegan cafe,
yes,
actually,
raw. I think raw
and
vegan cafe.
They were so nice to him and so accommodating and welcome. It completely changed how he thought about himself, how he, you know, and how he related to the world. And so that film, a lot of people would watch that film and think, I would like to know more about that, or I would like to, you know. So I think it can set you on a path to that, maybe, to radical self-care, because you know, it's one of the nicest things you can do for yourself, in my opinion. Yeah. So
fantastic. Yes, and I would agree with that. And I think for me, when I was unwell and recovering from a chronic illness, actually film was massively important to inspire me. Exactly, like that's where I came across that film, May I Be Frank, and it was like, if he can do it, I can do it. And what about in terms of the larger self that we're part of, the you know, friends, family, community, the planet? What has film got to offer us in terms of how we can support self-care in that wider sort of definition, if you like?
Yeah, well, I think I also believe, you know, because it's a group and a shared experience. You know, you can watch a film, and nowadays we can all watch the same thing at the same time, almost, can't we? Yeah. So although not, we could do it in a cinema, but not necessarily. Yeah. So, but I think there are many films out there that have been instrumental, really, in changing the way people think about things. Yeah. Especially about the planet. They're not always the most popular films, are they? But I think that's because it makes people a little bit uncomfortable to think that I'm a part of this system that is doing this to our planet. Yeah. So, but I have seen some excellent films that show us the way without doing that. 2040 would be one of those films. Yeah. And Tomorrow would be another one. And there are lots of films, aren't they? That the one about Cuba, and there are many films that are. And I would like to do more of that, because I don't think I really do enough. Because sometimes people, the biggest response I ever had for a film like that was Plastic Ocean.
Oh yes, yeah.
I think people, although it's still a problem, isn't it? That film shows you no holds barred about what happens if we just if we carry on on the plastic path as we were, you know. And that's not to say that all plastic is bad, because sometimes you need it for, especially in sort of medical situations, but you know, it's the single-use stuff, isn't it? Yeah, and definitely that film was instrumental in changing how people think, and certainly it inspired us in the cinema to try and get rid of that. Yeah.
Yes.
And to also lobby people like Mars and Nestle to change their packaging so that we could recycle it.
Yeah.
Which they're now doing. Yeah. So
Fantastic.
I think, yeah. So I think in that way it can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's so true, because I've watched some of those films you mentioned, 2040 and Tomorrow in particular. It was very inspiring, and I sort of came out of them thinking, oh, I want to, and this is great. And then, like you say, the ones like Plastic Ocean, it's a different sort of inspiration because it's uncomfortable, but it actually inspires us to take action then, engage with change. Fantastic. So we find ourselves at the moment in a unpredictable situation. None of us would have imagined we would be in this situation where our cinema was closed, along with so many other things that are part of our normal everyday life.
Yeah.
But I know that the cinema is planning to would like to stay part of our life, and you've got things planned and you're already doing some things. So could you tell us a little bit about what you're going to offer and support and encourage us with in terms of film?
Okay, so if you're still looking at the cinema Facebook page, which I hope you are, I've kind of gone around and got everybody to re-like it.
And can you tell us what it's called?
Oban Phoenix Cinema is our Facebook page, and so all duty managers, so that's Katrina, Marco and Suzanne, they've all put up stuff on there. Katrina's doing a weekly little video of her own of what she's recommending. So fantastic. I think last week it was Humf for the Wilderpeople, and Suzanne put up a thing about maybe watching Sunshine on Leith, because you may or may not be aware that the people in the flats in Edinburgh have all been singing to each other this song out the window, which is great, isn't it? And we're also trying to get it's a streaming platform called Mubi, who have very, very generously and very kindly offered it to us for free for 3 months.
Oh wow!
So that people will be able to access some films that way.
And how could they go about that? How's that going to work?
So once Marco's got it up and running, there will be instructions on the page to tell you what to do.
On the Facebook page?
On the Facebook page.
And will they also be on your website for people who might not be on Facebook, do you think?
They possibly will be. I'm not sure how we're going to do that, but that's being done sort of today. Really,
you're working on.
We're working on it at the moment. I'm going to interview 3 independent directors that showed films at the Phoenix last year. Fantastic. So Marilyn Edmond, who showed a film called Connect, which was about male suicide, a very powerful film, starring the lovely Kevin Guthrie. And then Matthew Butler Hart, he did a film called The Isle, which is from quite a famous story actually it's about an island with ghosts on it. Yeah. So it's a gothic Scottish thriller. Yeah. So great film, right? Creepy film, but very well done. And he's a really nice guy. And then the last one is Jasper Jones, who did a film called Tokyo. And he didn't have a lot of people at his screening, but he was a very, very interesting guy. And the film is like a cross between, if anybody's seen Hereditary, a bit like Hereditary, and Spirited Away, which is an anime film. Yeah.
Okay.
So he said to me, "Oh, that's really good." He said, "You should be my publicist." But that was a very interesting. So I'm trying to get hold of him to also do an interview about what they've got upcoming, and just what they like in their lives, and
And I think you've got something else. I think you've got other things you're doing.
Yeah, we did. We're doing sort of watch-alongs, which are films that we can watch at the same time. I actually made a little bit of mistake last week because I did Whiskey Galore, and then I realised you couldn't get it.
Oh,
can't get it on a streaming service. But I just thought so many people would have that film because of where it's set and everything. So
how does a watch-along work? How could we join in with the cinema's watch-along?
So you just at the same time, whenever the cinema says, "Oh, I've got a watch-along this weekend," you just watch the film at that time, and then you can feed back with comments. We've got lots of ways you can feed back. We've got a Twitter page, we've got Instagram, we've got Facebook, and we've got the website. Yeah. So, and just you know, how you found it, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and also, if you're it's hard, isn't it, at the moment, getting routine into your life.
Yes.
So anything that's got a bit of routine, and we kind of thought we'd do that as well. And then I've got other things. I've got I put Bria Charlton playing the classer on the Facebook page the other day. She'd done a little bit of that, and I'll be putting stuff of yours on there. And so just and anybody in the community that wants to put something on the Facebook page is very welcome to. They just have to contact me or one of the others, and they can do that at cinema@obanphoenix.com. Yep.
Okay, fantastic. All right. And just thinking about film recommendations, because you know, a lot of people have been going through a lot of stress at this time, and fear and worry and anxiety about things, and we know that being in a stressful state is not good for our immune system. So but to laugh is very good for our immune system. So I was wondering if you've got any film recommendations that are funny, things that might make us laugh. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So my top tip, I would
Top
say,
tip, yes.
my top tip would be C'est la vie, right, which is a French film. And when you start watching it, you kind of think, oh, you know, it's a bit up itself and but as it goes along, it is one of the funniest films I've ever seen, I would say. And in a way that only the French can do that, right? So it's about someone's wedding. It's about a catering company catering for someone's wedding. And the guy who's the groom is a complete idiot. So but by the end of the film, he kind of isn't. Right? So it's just so funny. All these things go wrong, and it's a great little film. I think you can get it on Amazon. And it's I saw it at the Demain Film Festival, not last year, the year before last, and I looked at the blurb and I thought, I'll check it out. But I wasn't sure whether anybody was even going to see it. But the cinema was full, and we were all laughing our heads off.
Wow!
So well done, yeah. So that would definitely be one of mine. One of the things I would watch. Humour really very much depends on who you are, doesn't it? We don't all laugh at the same things. That
is true, as we know.
And so we don't find all the same stuff funny. So I think if you Humf for the Wilderpeople, the one that Katrina advertised, because I don't just want to laugh, I want to be moved, I suppose. So I kind of like a film that's funny but also is a bit more thought-provoking. So that would be quite good. Anything with any of Steve Martin's old films, you know, the Man with Two Brains. I loved that film when I was a kid. And Planes, Trains and Automobiles, also a great film. I haven't watched a lot of comedies recently, I'll be honest. Yeah. So because I've been watching things like, I don't know if any of you saw Parasite. I think Parasite might be coming on the streaming service soon, but that is also quite brutal, but also very, very funny. Yeah. So and I would just, if you're looking through sort of things like Netflix, I saw another film the other night which was very funny. It was called Extraordinary, and it was with it's an Irish film. And again, I don't think anybody else would be able to get away with that. It was bizarre, but it was also very, very funny. And it was about a woman who was a driving instructor, but her real job was as a medium. And it was ridiculous, but it was also really, really funny. Yeah?
Fantastic.
And we just picked it at random. Yeah. So, and that's the other thing I would say to you. Don't go for the things you always go for. If you're looking in the comedy section, go for something that you wouldn't normally watch. Yeah. And then you can be pleasantly surprised, can't you? Yeah?
Brilliant idea. Yes, that's a fantastic idea. And it's an opportunity, isn't it, for us to experiment and try things we haven't done before.
Can I just also say, nothing you're like, Mary, but there's a fantastic series on Netflix at the moment called Kingdom, which is Korean. It's about zombies.
No, I won't like that.
And when I looked it up, they said that it was based on a real thing, but it wasn't really. What happened, there was a plague, I think, right? And so that's what they've done, is they've turned this plague into this zombie thing.
All right.
It's so brilliant, yeah?
I might be able to guess why that's popular at the moment.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so Jenny, that's great. And I guess if people want to put any of their film recommendations up that they've really enjoyed, that'd be possible somewhere on the Facebook page, or as you say, other social media.
Everybody in our community and everybody in the community of the world can feed into our Facebook page.
Yeah, because this interview will be shared there, and it'll be shared on my Change Is Always Possible page, so people can add more comments
and they can do whatever
their
they
recommendations.
Like.
So just before we end, Jenny, I wanted to ask you, what is your favourite or most helpful self-care practice for yourself that you could share with our audience?
It's going outside. Although I love films, I do, but in terms of self-care, it's getting out there in the green space, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it is. I fell in a bog yesterday, which I was quite happy about, because I was outdoors, and there's nothing for me. There's nothing like that, really. I think it's, I'm a London girl, and but even when I was in London, I was outside a lot because a lot of green spaces in London. So, and I just think being outside is just awesome, isn't it? Yeah. And we're so lucky. We're surrounded by this amazing countryside.
Yeah, we live in a particularly pleasant part of the world, and have the opportunity to go out into nature relatively easily. And I was thinking about this because a friend, interesting from London, was saying about it's not so easy for them to get out and to stay the required distance from somebody and things like that. But and also some people getting outside will be almost impossible. But because I have this experience from having been unwell and confined to the house, that even opening a window and having some fresh air gives us a little bit of contact with nature. But I agree that to actually get out in it is a fantastic self-care practice. And what about a practice that you engage in that is self-care for our planet?
Oh, well, I think we should all just plant things. I mean, I don't really have a massive garden or anything. I've only got a little sort of space outside my flat. But I always, no matter when, I always try to plant something. Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is, does it? If it's a flower or something to eat, even better. But I think doing that for the planet is good, or trying to because I don't want to come across as preaching to anybody, but definitely I think
so what you do, something that you is important to you.
Important to me is to buy good quality stuff as close to home as I can. So to buy to buy vegetables and meat. That I don't eat a lot of meat, but it's as close to my home as I can get it. It's not always possible. I love olive oil. That doesn't come from here, does it? But I try to think about that when I'm shopping, and I've been actually quite impressed with the way people, not the way people who are working in the supermarkets. I've been quite impressed with people because they've been very helpful and kind, haven't they?
Yeah.
So
and actually, I think at this time it's showing us that something about our food supply and helping people maybe to reconnect or connect with their local food supplies that perhaps they hadn't been aware of before, because it's so easy to engage with the big multinational food supplies. We have a lot on our own doorstep. So
I always buy local venison because that guy is just down the road, isn't he? And he's, but I don't buy it all the time because he doesn't have it all the time. And that's fine because I don't need it all the time. The only thing I don't do, which I would love to be able to do, is I love tea. I love a cup of tea. But that's not from around here either, is it? But it would be great if somebody thought, I'm gonna make Argyle tea.
Well, I think there is a little tea plantation on Mull, actually.
But is it black tea? Is it proper,
I'm not bored. I'm not sure,
Like
but
Assam or something.
I would
Yeah.
imagine that there's a good high chance now that somebody will comment on this
Yeah.
video or on your
Yeah,
on the cinema Facebook page and tell us the
yeah.
answer to that question.
So
Can we get local tea?
yeah, so when I retire, which, well, I don't know if I'll ever retire, but that's something I would think of doing. Yeah,
You're
to
going to
make
become
some memories.
Argyle's tea grower.
The tea growers of Argyle. Yeah.
Fantastic. Cinema or film aficionado and tea grower. That's wonderful. Okay, so just remind us, Jenny, how can people find out about what the cinema is, how it's keeping us engaged with film? What's the best
Okay.
way?
The best way is to go onto the Facebook page, I think. So because anybody can go on there. Obviously, on the website you can't say much, but because that's administered by us. But if you want to get into contact with anybody at the cinema, you can email cinema@obanphoenix.com. If you want to contact me directly, it's Jennie with an IE at obanphoenix.com.
Great.
Is that right? I can't
Is that
remember.
right?
It's been so long since it's worked.
Sure, we can find it on the website.
And you can, obviously, the phone doesn't work now. There's nobody manning the phone. And the Facebook page. So we've decided that will be the sort of centre of.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh.
We're hoping it won't be too long, because I noticed that a couple of cinemas in Wuhan are open now. Right. So
Okay.
that was 3 months. Yeah. But I don't know if it'll be the same for us. But we're hoping it will, because we all miss it. We have a weekly meeting, me and the staff on Zoom, and because I miss them. And I miss the customers, and
Yeah. So, and that, I think that's true. A lot of people will be feeling that about their communities that they're normally connected to and they can't now. So we're having to be quite inventive, aren't we? So you're creating a little cinema community online, and that's fantastic. And maybe some of those people will meet up in real life in the cinema in the future.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I don't know what we're planning for when we reopen, but it'll be something pretty good.
Fantastic. Yes.
So I mean, we're going to try. Another thing that happened in China is that, and it might only be peculiar to China, because the Chinese government, they've got their hands on a pretty firm grasp, haven't they? But all the distributors waived the fee for the films. Right?
Wow.
So they're all free to the cinema, which meant that the cinemas can pass that on to the community.
Yeah.
So, and just have a nominal fee, for the lighting or whatever.
Wow.
So that's something we'll definitely be working on.
Fantastic.
And also, about to encourage people. Well, not just to encourage people back, because that's not my fear. I'm not worried that people won't come back, because I think we'll be really missed. So I'm just worried that people won't know what's going on, I suppose, and that's why the Facebook page is there.
Okay, well, Jenny, thank you so much for being the first interview guest. I've got some more people lined up to talk to about self-care and radical self-care, and particularly at this time, so people can check in with Change is Always Possible Facebook page and the website and my YouTube channel to find out more about those. And how we can all keep practicing radical self-care for ourselves and our beautiful planet. So thank you very much for being my first interview guest.
You're very, very welcome, Mairi.